Let's get to the title, obviously tongue-in-cheek, but still truth to it. Women can, recite every word, verbatim of an argument 5 years ago, and the men don't remember besides the takeaway, whatever that was.
Right.
Why is it that women are so adept with this and men tend, again, not to be?
Well, it has to do with brain physiology and hormones. Women, under the impact of their hormones, will remember, especially if it's an unpleasant event, every detail, whereas men suppress most of the details and get to the end. I shot him and killed him, and that was the end of it. And it's so funny when the police question a couple, I think they tend to ask the man what happened, whereas in fact the woman is the repository of much more detailed information. And that's an evolutionary accommodation. Women were the historians of the social network. They had to teach the children, obviously. And you can imagine if a man remembered every detail of an unpleasant experience, he would be a pretty ineffective hunter. He'd be afraid to pursue the same perilous experience a second time. So we are selected out for this focused decision-making kind of remembering in men, and the detailed rich memory that women have. There is a real difference in the way we record in our brains what happens to us.
I wonder if that will change in a few hundred years from now as our roles are changing. What do you think about that?
I'm giving a talk in Baltimore in June to the Society of Sex-Specific Differences to talk about whether gender will exist, and if so, what role it will play in the future as our experiences become more homogenized, as we tinker with, if you will, technological interventions in brain function, deep brain stimulation, chips implanted in brains. It'll be very interesting, and also gene manipulation. It'll be very interesting to see what we, in fact, are left with in terms of gender.
But regarding the visual nature of men, sometimes women will call men pigs. Oh, they're so shallow. They use a lot of disparaging words. And I absolutely disagree. Maybe some men are, but by and large, as a gender, they're just visual. That's how their brains are wired. And to me, they really can't help that they're driven by certain visual stimuli that women may or may not be responsive to, but men are.
Well, that is very absolutely true. And the visual centers of the brain do light up enthusiastically, one might say, in response to a sexual stimulus in men, which is not the case for women. On the other hand, women hear very acutely.
Right.
From the time they emerge from the womb, they hear better than men, and so they can detect changes in the tones of voice. And interestingly enough, speaking of visual, in the variation of expression in faces in a way that men can't. So both bring something to the party, but the differences are fascinating and I think attract us to one another, if I may say so.
It's more than I get. I just haven't met you yet. They say